Hey friends, welcome back to Becoming Unbound, where we explore the journeys, challenges, and triumphs of breaking free and building the life of your dreams. I'm your host, Carly Butler, and I'm here to inspire and empower you to embrace this unbound life, where possibilities are endless and freedom is yours to claim. So today, I'm absolutely thrilled to be joined by Lisa Taylor. Now, Lisa and I met through our coaching group. Highly recommended if you haven't heard it, with the one and only Kaylor Betts. And yeah, we just sort of hit it off. And we live relatively close to one another. So we ended up meeting in person. Probably you were the first person that I met from our coaching program. And we've been at events together. It's been a really beautiful friendship and sort of cheering each other on through the group coaching calls and just sort of discovering what it is like to live. I mean, Kaylor calls it ungovernable. I call it living a life unbound. And yeah, we're here today talking about how to become unbound and Lisa's journey through that. So let's dive in to this conversation. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you, Carly. I'm so excited to be on your podcast. Watching you do this has been phenomenal. You really have stepped up and shined. So it's so beautiful. Congrats to you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we were at it was the summit retreat, whatever you want to call it, for Awaken Winning. That's the coaching group that we're a part of. At that summit, it was kind of the first, my business was about to launch. My website was about to launch. And I remember we did this activity. It was very cool. I don't want to give it spoiler alert if you go to the next summit, they're doing this activity, but you wrote something on a rock and you needed to throw that rock into that's the river, right? That we were at?
I don't know if it was the bay of the ocean or where it was, but it was on the coast.
Geography is not our strong suit. But anyway, so we threw this rock into the river, and what I did was I wrote on that rock, my small self. And that was kind of the small self, the childlike self, the one that sort of kept me small, safe, secure in my regular 9-to-5 job. And I friggin' just whipped that thing into the river. And it was truly a very physical manifestation of everything that's come from that moment in September. Till now. So it's really, really cool. I don't know. Do you want to share what you threw into the river?
Oh boy, I threw in the last 6 years of my life.
Yeah.
And all the struggles. Yeah, I threw it away. And honestly, now that you bring that up, I haven't really reflected on that, but I think it was powerful. And I think it worked.
Yeah.
Definitely what you're saying you threw away, it has manifested for you too. So that's beautiful.
Yeah, no, I came back from that summit full force. It was awesome. So I'm always such a big fan of physical activities that allow learnings and stuff to embed them truly into our lives, like that integration of learning new things. We could have talked about what we want to throw away and get rid of and let go of, but the physical representation, I think it's just my teacher self that comes out, and I just want to it's such a great activity, and I love stuff like that. So way to go, Kaylor. That was a great move.
It was, yeah.
So maybe let's start off with, how did you find the sort of, and I guess the Awaken Winning coach, or what was that moment where, we've all had that kind of story of awakening or figuring out that whoa, that something isn't right here, or I can do something differently here, or there's something that's awakening within yourself. How did that start for you?
Thought about this question for a bit. For me, it really started so I'm 55. I'm an older demographic of the Awaken Winning group. Around 39, I was married. I had a great career. I had the house. I had the husband, the kid. We really didn't want for much. And I kept asking myself, is this it? Is this my purpose? What is my purpose? It felt like it was unfulfilled. And I really started on a journey of spirituality. And I think that's where the waking up began, was with the spiritual journey. but actually taking steps to change my life to make it what I really wanted, because it wasn't. I had lived, I look at it that I had lived the life that was expected of me, and I achieved it, and it wasn't my dream. It was somebody else's dream. So that's really where it began.
Wow. Yeah, those expectations. And this was my story. I feel like many of the stories on this podcast resonate with exactly that. You go through the checklist and you were like checking all the boxes and you're like, yeah, I'm doing it. And this is what I'm told, what I'm programmed to this is how I'm going to find success or happiness or joy, whatever your word is. And this is how I'm going to find it. And then after you're done the checklist, you're like, oh, what? I did all the things. Society told me I was supposed to be happy. I was supposed to be fulfilled. I was, whether it's family, careers, anything like that. It's all of a sudden you're going through it and you're like, oh no, this is not quite it. And how beautiful it is to like have that awakening moment and then realize like, this isn't it. And I can take steps to make it something different.
Yes. Typically, wouldn't it be fantastic if we could take those steps without breaking anything, though? And I didn't do that. I broke some things. I broke a lot of things and essentially just like tore it all apart and started to rebuild.
Yeah. I've heard that sort of anecdote where things must collapse in order for them to rebuild. And I feel like we see that a lot in our wild world that we have right now that is literally, I hope the fires are almost out and that they've got some sort of control over it. But our world is literally, from the best description, on fire.
Yes.
And it's so interesting that this is mirroring, and whether it is this time of your life or the current time or previous times, like you had to kind of light it all on fire and start again to, I don't know, I guess for me, the image that's coming to me is like a phoenix rising from the ashes.
Yeah, that's beautiful. If only it felt that way whilst you're doing it.
Oh no, it's horrible when you're doing it. And what's that quote where you have to like, to get the life that you want, you have to give up the life you have now.
Mm-hmm.
Saying that correctly, but that's the general idea of it, is that you have to give up that old life and everything that you built in order to take a step and look at what else is possible.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so what would you say would be, if you feel like sharing, you don't have to get too personal, but what was that first what was the baby step that you took? What was sometimes just the awareness is the first step.
Yeah.
But what was the next sort of like thing that you were like, okay, if I did this, I don't know, maybe I'm blowing stuff up, but what was that first step?
For me, I think there were two steps. One was getting my personal health in order. I was over, I think the highest I remember weighing was 226 pounds. So really not healthy, not happy. Just stuck. And then secondly, my relationship with my husband, and really having to walk away from that, change that. And in it, the fallout was with my daughter, because we had a kid. So, tearing that apart knowingly, it's very, very hard to face and very, very hard to do. It took me, I went to counseling, and I remember speaking to my counselor for over a year to get up the nerve to make the decision to leave the marriage, to sell the house, to do the things. It's very daunting.
Wow. Yeah, I can't imagine what that feels like. I've been through a couple breakups in my life, but nothing in comparison to that. I can't imagine what it took to like build up and see that fear and be like, I'm scared to do this. And for good reason, right? Because like, who knows what's waiting on the other side of you, of that for you.
Yeah, there's a lot of guilt I mean, in the awakening process, I think what we learn to do is to turn the lens onto ourselves. And that's not a fun process. When you recognize your hand in where you are standing in life, what you've done, your actions, your decisions, seeing yourself just raw and real, and then having to, like you said before, rebuild. The whole thing's not fun, but I don't think I would have changed anything. And if I were talking to somebody who's in a similar situation in their life, I would say, yeah, it's going to be hard, but honestly, I promise you, if you stick to it and you do it, you will find the happiness that you are deserving of, that we are all deserving of. Yeah. It can be such a long process. I'm glad I started it when I started it, but everybody's journey is different.
Yeah. Wow. And I love that you said that, because it is about finding awareness of like, what have you done to put yourself into this situation? And sometimes it's like, you can look out into the world and have an awakening process where you're looking externally to all of the things and the lies or the sort of things that don't add up in your head and the things that we're seeing in society. And like that can be someone's awakening process. But it sounds like your awakening process was actually just shifting that light onto yourself and being like, oh, I had a hand in this, whether it's complacency or whether it's not understanding your own values, or, there's so many different ways that we can turn the lens. There's all of the ways that we've, beautifully learned in our coaching program and things like that. But to turn that awareness onto ourselves and come to an understanding, or I've heard the word inner standing, to understand yourself or the relationships that you're in or the job that you're in. All of these things add to our awareness. And as soon as you shine that light, you're shining light essentially onto what could be a dark place in yourself.
Yeah.
And that reckoning is like you said, it's challenging. There's guilt, there's shame, there's all these sorts of, low vibrational energies and frequencies that we're all of a sudden like, oh my goodness, I've maybe not had the awareness, but now I'm living in this. Like, yuck.
Yeah. Yeah. When you see the truth, which is the hardest thing to do, but I think it's where everybody needs to start. We lie to ourselves so much and we believe it and we think we are, there's this main theme of victim in society today, right? And we see it, but when you recognize how you are showing up as the victim, and yeah, what you mentioned about the darkness, because it can take you to a dark place. And some people don't have, I guess, maybe the fortitude or the support to be able to handle that and stay stuck there for a long time. So it can be, it's getting what you want out of life. It's not easy.
No.
I don't know anybody that you hear a success story and you were like, oh, just silver spoon all the way,
Yeah, it's not all sunshine and rainbows and manifesting and sitting on your meditation pillow and it all comes to you. I think those things are helpful, and having an outlook that sees like, okay, I have faith that I can do this. But almost everybody that I have talked to has been through the absolute trenches in order to get to where they're at. And whether that's looking in deep to themselves or looking externally, like all these things, they mirror each other, whether it's the lies in society or the lies that you've been telling yourself for the last 10 years. They're all connected. And when you start to shine that light, it can be a little bit of a scary place.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So, that's why it's really good to have coaching programs and people that you can just watch on social media who inspire you or motivate you. We didn't have social media when I was going through all of this. Well, when did social media happen? I don't even know. I think sort of around 2016 is when I really got involved in Facebook and following people, and the whole concept of, that's like when the Kardashians were doing their thing and influencers and things like that. But prior to that, I was in sales and I was going to the library and getting CD books and listening to them in the car between sales appointments. That's sort of how I started. So it's a different world now. Do you follow Gary Vee? Yeah, right? So he's like, there's no excuse. There's no excuse these days.
No, there isn't.
To be able to make these changes, because the support can be there. Even if you're all alone, it can be a virtual person. It can be AI. It can be whatever. So it's a different world than when I started, because I left my husband around 2011.
Yeah, it's a huge shift now. And I would say, my number one kind of recommendation is and the thing that changed my life was in my own awakening. It was kind of like, whoa, I feel very alone in this. And all of a sudden, then you start talking to people and you realize there's community and there's oh, everyone is going or has been through this darkness. And yes, do I have a mentor to help me along with that? But knowing that there is communities and there is these beautiful, Instagram is such a great place for community, not just for coaching programs and sales and ads and stuff like that, but for understanding that there are people out there sharing their own stories, their own darkness. And you say, okay, I am not alone in this. And that is the gift in and of itself, just to be okay, maybe I'm not sharing my voice or sharing my story, but at least I can resonate and relate to things, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all these things, they're all so valuable to us. And so, yeah, there really isn't any excuses these days to start to just, whether it's understanding yourself, understanding the world around you, there are so many resources. We're not, I still love going to the library and picking out self-help books. I love it. It's great.
I use the Audible. I've started the Audible. So there's always something going on in my ear. But how fortunate are we to have this? So fortunate, because when I started, there was nothing. And people weren't talking about mental health back then. They weren't sharing the benefit of perhaps ending a marriage and going out alone. These were things that were shunned and judged. And I was even a judger of. So when you're turning around, like I said, and judging yourself, it's ugh, awful. So the world is, I think, as you were saying earlier, it's on fire, but it's also so beautiful in that the capability is there to do what it is you need to do to turn your life around. Just the mental mindset around changing and then you can go to the other side where there's too much of it, maybe getting stuck there, but it's a beautiful time. I think we're all here for a purpose, for on purpose at this time to do whatever it is we can. You starting this podcast, and me, what I'm doing is I'm mentoring my kid, right? She's 25 years old, and she has the same questions, concerns, anxieties that society has right now. And I'm able to help direct her, support her, lift her up, tell her, this is normal. This is okay. We had a conversation yesterday about failure. There's this expectation of perfection. And I know I'm going on a tangent and all over the place, but people think that in order to do something, you have to do it from the very onset perfectly, but you don't, because you're not going to learn. You're not going to get to that level of perfection or where you want to be instantaneously. There's these teeny little steps you got to take to get there. I'm sorry. I totally jumped all over the
Oh, I
place
love
there.
that. And I think that's kind of like where having that mentor, having parents who are now aware of the things that they didn't have when you were there was probably moments where you asked questions and you just sort of said, oh, well, I better not ask this question because nobody else talks about it and nobody's here to help support me in my answers. And I don't, you just sort of stifle that part of you. And here you are providing this opportunity, this mentorship, this little community for your child that essentially, and she's grown up, she's 25, but to like provide that like sort of thing that you didn't have. So learning those lessons from like previous generations and allowing the newer generations. And even on like TikTok, I see like so many young people asking questions. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that was me. And I did ask questions. I was in university and I was like, there was a couple things that I was scratching my head at. And it basically it was sort of like, I was having these conversations. I was questioning things. And then I remember just feeling like if I keep going down this and if I keep questioning things, people are either going to be mad at me. They're not going to like me. They're going to think I'm crazy. So I just like put that all away. And I was like, you know what? No, I value my friendship and belonging to community over questioning and trying to get a better understanding of what was going on around me. But I chose just to be like, okay, you know what? I'm just going to go with the status quo because that feels like the best, safest option for me. And then it's so interesting that I look back now and maybe I wish I could have had a mentor or social media in the way that it was, because this was probably, 2014, 2013 when I was like, some things don't add up to me. But it was just like, okay, you know what? I don't have the people that share the same thoughts as me. I don't have the same connections. So might as well just not. So it's a beautiful thing that you're able to share that and allow, the younger generations to be like, it's okay if you fail. It's okay if you have questions. It's okay if you do this, because that's how we build the life and get to know ourselves the best.
Yeah. And it's a sort of like a compass, right? Because when you think about when you're standing there and you're like, okay, I'm going to make this change, you're probably doing it because you're stuck. You're probably doing it because you don't like where you're standing. It's either, okay, I stay here or I change. And I think the biggest thing to recognize is that you're out of alignment, right? And that is where I think we need to all start, is what feels right and good to me, not, and again, taking that lens and looking at you. And it's something that is scary because of, like you said, not being part of the community, not being status quo, being different, fear of losing. But I don't think you can do this. I don't think you can go through this process without losing all of it. I just really don't think you can. But then you're going to gain so much more, and it's going to be wonderful. But that middle period of transition, I mean, I don't know. Do you know anybody who's gone through major change and it was easy for them?
Not at all.
No.
Almost everyone is like they have some sort of dark night of the soul. They have some sort of period of time that they had to get small, dark, like they almost like you go into this cave of like low vibrational frequencies. You turn the lights are off. You're bumbling around in the dark. You have no idea what's on the other side of this. And then whether it's community members and mentorship, like, it's always a ride for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something that I try to keep in mind now as I find myself being challenged, is that now that I know that through challenges, I was able to find a more authentic version of myself, a life that I wanted for myself. And in that sort of fear and that challenge and that darkness, now I see those little moments of like, ooh, that's really challenging. This is going to be quote unquote hard. And on the other side of that, it's going to be great, because this is how we grow, is through challenges. And I think this is actually our coach Kaylor says this all the time. On the other side of that fear is where your freedom lies.
The first time I heard that was, I think Will Smith said it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Fact checker.
It's concept for sure. You just made me think of something. It's like, what happens? This is what I've noticed because I've been on this ride for a while. Is that when the things start to shift, they shift so much faster and happen in such larger, bigger capacity. It's almost hard to believe. And then you reach this point of, you're never going to go back to that. You won't go back to that. But you don't know what's ahead, what challenges are you're going to face ahead. Obviously, you're going to face challenges. But what I've noticed is that you now have the foundation to be able to handle them easier. You still can be in those dark, unknown places and spaces, but you're stronger, more confident, and you have belief that it's okay. I'm going to get through this. Something's going to show up. I call it faith. But
yeah, I think Alex Hormozy calls it evidence stacking. So when you stack the evidence that you can do it, it's like, okay, well, 2 years ago, I did make that big leap of faith. And so I'm capable of doing other big leaps of faith. And 6 months ago, I faced this huge fear of mine and I survived. And maybe you even thrived. And so now you have all this evidence that you're like, every time I've taken a leap of faith, I've done the scary thing, I've, looked at a fear and then been like, okay, I'm going to do this thing. On the other side of that, not only are you still alive because your physical body is still here, but you are okay and you're probably better than you were before. And yet you've stacked all this evidence that you are capable and you can make a mistake and survive it. And you are just so much more capable than you understand for yourself.
mm-hmm.
And whether that's taking the leap of faith to leave a relationship that no longer serves you and isn't calling to your highest purpose, or whether that's to leave a job that isn't serving you and that you feel stuck in, or maybe that's to make a huge change in the way that you are treating your physical body. All of these big leaps of faith that like, okay, you know what? Yeah, I do still crave carbs or whatever it is that you crave, but I'm actually better for it. And look at me, I've done it. And so I can keep doing this. So proving to yourself, and that's really the only person that you have to prove it to.
And that's a big knowledge in itself, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. Like when you can overcome the ego, that part of the ego, and just recognize that this is just for me and no one else. And nobody else even really needs to know. But you know.
Yeah. Someone said that. Someone said, some celebrity, he says like, someone was like, basically, if you can do something and not tell anybody about it, sometimes that's where you get the best results because it's only between you. And like, that's who you are improving. Like nobody else needs to hear about this stuff. And if you can do that and live your life, like that's a sign that you are kind of on the right path. Because if you're doing it just to show someone that you can do it, there's probably little sticky darkness, ego bits in there that still need to be found out about and stuff like that. Like there is those things that if you can do something without telling anybody about it, then maybe that's a better version of doing that thing for yourself.
Yeah, it's definitely an elevation that I don't think everybody achieves. We need validation though as well, right? Like every human wants to be heard, seen, valued. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But when we're looking for it in every space in our life, that's when you might want to ask yourself, like, what's missing, right? Like for me, I was lonely, very lonely. That's why I started really doing the I don't know what you call it, vlogging or whatever, like just picking up my phone and sharing my thoughts. And I started to build this community of people who follow me, and then they became friends. And you can get through anything if you have somebody who will validate when you're not feeling great or when something is going good. And we can't always get it in our life where we are. So that, again, is another beautiful thing about social media. But then when you can get to the point of where I don't need to share this, this is just for me. And then you're like, oh, wow, like all this stuff happened and I just don't feel like sharing it right now. And not for selfish purposes, not like to keep it to yourself, but just because you just don't need to. It's beautiful too. Yeah, I think Ed Milet talks a lot about this reaching this state of like humbleness that he says this huge threat of a successful person is somebody who is humble and yet like really super driven and in a serving way. And when you look at people like you mentioned, Alex Hormozi, what an amazing man. Like, you listen to him and he's so inspiring. And at a young age, he's accomplished so much. So when we talk about that darkness in ourselves and then seeing the accomplishments, it's, I think, very true that we are the ones holding ourselves back. Like, everybody has a potential to create and reach the level that they want to go to. It's mostly done up here, though, and then also with like taking the actions. But we there's so much room at the top for all of us. There's so much room up there, and we all have potential to get there.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that, like, someone once said, like, there's, like, as far as success goes and wealth and abundance, and it was like, there's so much money out there. You just have to go find it. Like, it's not like there's this secret to it. There is so much of it. And when I was explaining this to my students one time, and I feel like we always like learned in school, like, and I'm going off on a tangent, but it's all about, like,
we're talking about being unbound, right?
We're talking about savings and budgeting, and all of these things were very like limiting versions and perspectives of money. And so what I did was, instead of that, of like, oh, let's save and let's count and like, let's count the little numbers that we have. It's like, okay, how much money do you think is in the world? And they're like, well, I don't know. I was like, do you think it could fill this box? And then I was like, do you think it could fill my whole desk? Okay, do you think it could fill this whole room? Do you think it could fill this whole school? And they were like, yeah. And I was like, you're right. It could fill the whole playground in the gold and the silver and the abundance and the money that is available in our world. It's wild to me. And as I was teaching this, I was like learning my own and like breaking through my own abundance, like self-limiting beliefs on this, that like it is true. There is so much of it out there. You just have to go find it and have something to offer that's fulfilling to you and purposeful. And maybe it's not like your dream thing, but like there is so much abundance out there. Go find it. And I think that's so opposite from what we're taught in school. It's like penny pinch and put this in your savings account and then here and then here. And it's like, and those things are valuable. I'm not taking away from the fact that those are valuable and really great life lessons. And if you can have the mindset that the amount of, whether it's relationships, money, like they're all out there. We are living in the time where there's the most amount of connection and community and the most amount of physical human beings on earth. Like that's got to mean something. And I love what you said. Like, we are here for a very specific purpose. And at this specific time where we do have so much media, social media, we do have so much currency. I mean, maybe there's also a lot of debt, but well, that's a whole other conversation. But there is a lot of opportunities for us in this time. And we just have to go find it and not let our own mind hold us back.
I think we're coming out of a time of materialism. And I think a lot of it has to probably do with technology and all the widgets and gadgets. And, I remember when they created the LED TV and my ex-husband needed an LED TV. Like, we had this big, huge projection, big, huge thing, honking thing. And he was like, nope, we need this thing up on the wall over the fireplace. And so he was always an early adopter. But when I start to look back and think about materialism, what it's perhaps for trying to fill a gap, like an emotional gap or a gap to need to want to look a certain way, even though you're not really there, right? So I think when you talk about the budgets and you talk about savings and all of that, it is a very, very, very important part of the conversation right now, today. Because we're all coming also out of a time of instant gratification and indulgence and privilege. I've been talking a lot about privilege lately. I've been experiencing a lot of feelings about privilege. And I think this is a time for us to step up and recognize what have we been trying to compensate for, and really, really going into that. And is it food? Is it alcohol? Is it drugs? Is it things? Is it gambling? Like, what addiction do you have? And what is it trying to compensate for? Because I think we all have it. And none of us here on the planet are perfect. We all have some sort of thing. So understanding that if you want to reach a goal, taking a look at the financial aspect of your life, I think it's also a very important part of the process. That is what I did too. I took a look at, when you talk about leaving a job, like, I left a very, 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 very good, awesome career. And I was essentially unemployed and living as an entrepreneur for 6+ years during this whole rocky road of coming to myself and growing and awakening, as we kind of phrase it. And when you also said something about you have to tear it all apart in order to rebuild it. For me, I looked at that as a financial tearing apart. I don't know why I told myself that. Maybe if I hadn't told myself that, I might not have gone down that road. But I really did. And so learning to appreciate when you don't have what it is that you need just for the basic necessities of life, because we do. And there's, I think, a huge part of at least North Americans right now who are in this position. And it can be very despairing. How are we going to get out of it? And it's these types of conversations and this type of, what did I do? What did Carly do? What did Taylor do? Conversations to let people understand that it all has to break down first with self and really like understand what it is you have to do to free yourself from all of these expectations and concepts and societal beliefs, as you mentioned earlier, to really get to the heart of how am I going to move forward today? And what am I going to do tomorrow? And then what is going to be the next day? And then we do have all these worries about, well, where's it all going to come from? How I put it into faith. I did. And I literally tested it. I tested it to the point where it was like, I'm going to do that thing that's going to help my business on Friday. I don't know where the gas money is going to come from, but I believe it's going to show up And it always did. We always had a roof over our head. We always had food. We always had heat. We always had our cell phones. There is so much support in the world available to everybody. We need to get over ourselves. Stop being so damn proud and start learning to be open to receive, because it's all there to help you on this process. Like, it's so beautiful. It just, awakening can be so beautiful. But again, it's telling the story after, not during. Because during, I wouldn't have been saying these things.
Yeah. And I love, it really brings me back to like right before or during. I think one of the best things that I did and a lot of people have sort of resonated with is just finding out what you value and what you need. Because a lot of the times, like you're talking about materialism and stuff, like, yeah, you always did have a roof over your head and somehow groceries were bought. And like, what are your values? How do you feel free? How do you feel like you are totally fulfilled? And maybe there's just enough. Like, but how can we live in a world where we do have just enough? And then you all of a sudden discover you're like, oh, well, I'm actually quite happy and content. And maybe happiness isn't the goal, but I'm satisfied and I'm fulfilled. I don't have everything and all the amazing, most and newest things and the technology and all these stuff, but hey, look at that. I'm okay. And finding out whether that's the financial conversation or whether that's the community conversation, like, where are you at and what can you be okay with in order to live a not the fanciest life, not the keeping up with the Joneses life. Like, that's, I think we're letting that kind of go. But how can you figure out what it is that you need? What is it that you value? Do you value time? Do you value, just being able to like get your nails done or your hair done? Is that something that you really want to be able to afford? Or do you want, whatever it is, whatever little things that you need to make you feel and that your values are being upheld, whether that's time, money, autonomy, individuality, when you're like being able to show up authentically to a job, whatever your value systems are. As soon as you figure those out, it feels like it's much easier to figure out how you can live with just what you need rather than what society tells you that you need in order to have status or to be loved or to belong to community. And yeah, it's really a beautiful process in reflection.
In reflection, yeah.
Yep.
You're so right about the values. And I remember now I took this one. So starting out as an entrepreneur, I didn't know anything, what to do, how to do it. And I did take this one lady's course who's still a friend to this day. And she did a value exercise. And I had never talked about values. We didn't talk about that stuff. This is what I'm saying. This is the greatest time on earth to be alive because we talk about all these beautiful, healthy things that you can literally Google value exercise and the whole thing will come up and it'll teach you how to do it and what to do. And then all of a sudden now you've got these 4 or 5 values that are yours in front of you. And then you start approaching life to make sure that you're within that alignment with those values. So you're right.
Yeah. Yeah, I always get this as like a real life example ever. Like I've had my car forever. It's a little tiny car. It runs. I love it. It's like there's no tints on the window. It's a 2008 and I love my car. And everyone's like, well, and I show up to my family's events and they're like, when are you getting a new car? And I'm like, why? It gets me from A to Z. I've had so many great memories. It's a Honda Fit, so I can fit everything into my car. And being able to have that level of independence and autonomy that where I'm like, I want to go buy a dresser. I'm going right now and it's getting in my car. That's actually part of my value of like having that autonomy to do that with the vehicle that I have and being able to, pop up to my cottage whenever I want. Like, but it serves my value system. So going out to get a nicer, fancier car so I can look like Like, I don't even know. For me, just having my perfect car, it solves all of my sort of issues in life, and it serves my values. And so I love my car. I'm going to run that thing into the ground. Like, bless her.
That's a perfect example of it, and it's like other people saying, when are you going to get, it's like, that's not what's of importance to me. And I'm okay with that. And then being able to stand in honor it and not worry and not care.
Yeah. And those things can change too. Like, I fully know that, like, my car, when I have children, like, my value system will shift and change. And then all of a sudden, safety of my family will be a priority. And so obtaining a safer vehicle that wouldn't, it would just be more safe. That's going to be my new value system, right? So, like, these values also shift over time as to what you need. And I think, even taking it back to the beginning of the conversation, during our awakenings, we probably had very different values, right? It was to belong, to be loved, to stick into the box. Like, sticking into a box can be a value of yours. That, if you want to honor that and be like, no, I like sticking in this box, and I want to check the boxes, and I want to try this out, and I want to do that, or I want to be loved and embraced by my university community and the friend group that I have, that's important to me. And I'm going to value that over, stepping out of the box and stepping into leaving a relationship or speaking my mind about things that I question. These values change over our life. And that's kind of a beautiful thing too.
Yep. And making sure that you're going through that exercise every once in a while to check in and see if they have shifted. Mine, integrity wasn't one of mine originally, but now it is. And I one of mine was risky. And that's not so much one of mine anymore. I took a lot of risks. And now I'm like, okay, so now I want to be a little bit safer. So it can change, but going through the exercises, all of the things that require us to go within, I don't think you can ever get a bad outcome from that. And it's not something that everybody does. So recognizing if you're doing that, if you're questioning who you are and how you're showing up, and it's just a good thing, and keep going with that.
Yeah, that's great. That was actually going to be, you kind of just answered the last question that I was going to ask. It was just sort of like, oh, it's perfect. Like, what would be your recommendation to someone who's feeling that itch that, like, ooh, there's got to be something else out there, or like there is something out of alignment, and they feel it. They know that there's something there. What would you say is like your first recommended step to start that process? And whether people have like sort of been in it for a while, or they're starting to feel like, okay, I'm ready to make some moves here in my life. What do I do first? Like, where do I go? Who do I talk to? Like, what would you say? If you could talk to your younger self and say, like, I wish I could have just done this to get things started?
Okay. One, I think it's important to recognize that everything is happening absolutely perfect the way it's happening. Even the crappy stuff. Don't worry about it. You have to go through the evolution, because if you don't go, if you're not in the position you're in right now, you can't get to where it is you're supposed to go. And I also think getting out of your way, I think believing in something other than yourself. One of the very first books that I read was You Are a Badass, Jen Sincero. That I got that one as a CD listening in the car. And I think I listened to that probably 3 or 4 times. And she said that you have to believe in some type of energy force. I mean, I hear you say frequency a lot. So that's sort of like maybe where your energy belief is, mine is God. But that was an evolution for me, because coming as a white woman who was baptized when I was like 9 months old and then never stepped foot in a church again. That was just my own personal evolution. But knowing that there's source, energy, God, whatever spirit, whatever it is you want to call it, I think if you aren't even at least just open, and if you have a hard time with this, listen to the You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero, because she explains it very, 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 very well. So that definitely would be something that I would say is 100% important in any journey, is that there's a place where you need to go and somebody is guiding you and you just need to open your eyes. And yeah, open your eyes. You might be walking through the dark and not seeing anything, but there's other ways to detect that you're on the right path, right? We've heard people say the stars align, the following the breadcrumbs, whatever it is, something is placing them there for you. And ignoring them is going to keep you stuck. You need to let go of that rock that you're hanging on to so strongly in the rapids and just flow down the river to where there might be more ease. There's so many things that you can do, but just start. Ask somebody. If you're following somebody on social media and you're inspired by them, I'm telling you, if you send them a message and they're the right person, they will answer you back. There will be the ability to have a conversation, and don't be afraid to invest in yourself. Don't be afraid to take that. Be afraid, but take the leap anyway.
I love that. Yeah. I think that's really important. I've definitely I was always like spirit, source, and oh my gosh, I had this thing, but like I couldn't say the word God for the longest time. And now it's become a lot more like it's become a pinnacle and center point in my world of like whether it is God, universe, your higher self, source, the collective energy, whatever it is, creator, whoever that thing is for you that is bigger than yourself. Mm-hmm. I think that's really powerful. And knowing that in those dark parts, like God doesn't give you more than you can't handle.
Have you heard of Jamie Kern Lima?
No, I haven't.
She's the woman who sold It Cosmetics to L'Oreal. She was the very first female billionaire.
Wow.
She sold It Cosmetics to L'Oreal and became the very first female CEO of L'Oreal. She's written a couple books. And in her last book called Worthy, she took that line of God will not give you anything that you cannot handle and changed to God will not give you anything that he cannot handle.
Mm.
Yeah. Like we are not alone.
Yeah.
And this isn't like a culty sort of thing. It's really just whatever it is that but you do need to open up to something, to source, to universe, to frequencies, to energy. We are all energy. We are all energy. And this is science. So, I have a friend, she always says, God and science together. Yeah, it's okay. It's okay to take your mind outside of those barriers that might not be ours, that have been there for so very long, and look at it from a different vantage point and really like, well, why do I think that? And how strongly am I holding on to that belief? And is it serving me? Because if you're not where you want to be in life, it is literally only up to you to change it. Nobody is coming to save you. And you have absolute abundance in order to create and achieve whatever it is you want. And is it going to happen overnight? Heck no. Sorry, sister. And if you figured out how to make it happen that way, tell me.
Tell everybody.
Tell everybody.
Come on the podcast and tell us how to make
Come
this
on the
happen, because
podcast.
we are
Carly,
going through
I
the
got it
trenches.
figured out. You need to have me on.
I love it. Oh, thank you so much, Lisa. I feel like we could talk for another 3 hours. This has been an incredible conversation. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and just allowing other people to know that they're not alone. And to, if you got to light your life on fire, just do it and take the leap of faith and then have that faith. I love it. This message has been truly, truly empowering. And gosh, when I was back then in the times, don't we wish that we had a podcast just like this to listen to?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Amazing.
Download the Spotify, the Apple, the this, whatever it is, download it and search the subject that you need help with. And it is there, my friend. I'm telling you, it's like such a beautiful time.
No excuses.
No. And then if you need help creating that podcast, go to Carly.
Yes,
I will.
I'll be here. Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Lisa. Thank you for your time today. And my friends, keep becoming unbound. There is a life out there. Keep breaking free. Keep doing those things that scare you. And stay tuned for our episode next week. We'll be here. And I can't wait for you to start becoming unbound.